Hi guys, my name is Bob on the Cob, and today we'll be doing the first episode of Fishy Explains Things Poorly, which is also my 300 subscriber special and 100th video, but we'll get into that part later. Alright, so the first notable thing in the range editor is the level size selection thing. This will pop up when you click in new level. Basically, it automatically places the cameras for you, so you don't have to worry about that. You can increase how many cameras wide it is, or screens it is, how many screens tall it is. Just basically you can do anything. I just do a one by one. Yeah, I think that's it. Another thing, border tiles. This is kind of like areas where geometry doesn't function outside of. So you basically now on the bottom there's one tile where geometry wouldn't function, but I usually just disable that because there's no real point to them. Of course you can select which layers it should fill. I'm going to do all three for this one. I usually don't do that, but I don't know. I always fill in the layer 3, so yeah. So now you have your room right here, and the first tab you get thrown into is the environment editor. This is arguably the most useless tab out of them. It's still useful kind of sometimes. It's only really used for adding water, making the water be in the front or in the back, basically like, in front of tiles or slightly behind them, You can also select the tile random seed, make it an enclosed room and disable sunlight, but nobody touches those, so yeah, that's really it for the environment. The geometry tab is probably one of the most important parts of framer level editing because this is the stuff you can interact with outside of food because that's not here. So basically all the walls, all the poles are made in the geometry tab. The darker tiles are the walls or the floor or they're called wall. Lighter tiles are the air. You can if you hold shift and then drag your mouse while holding left click, it makes a big area. Basically it just fills that area with the tile selected or geometry option selected. I don't know what to call them because tiles are a different thing, but we'll get into that. Now a little bit more in depth about the geometry tabs, actual options on the side. The wall is a wall. I don't really know if I have to explain this, you know what a wall is. Air is air. This is where the player can be, I guess. Not really too much to say about that. The toggle is just basically an inversion thing like that. Also not too pretty self-explanatory, nothing too much to say. Invisible wall, this is like a wall but invisible. These are mostly self-explanatory. Slopes, once again, like the most self-explanatory thing of all time. They're slopes. One cool thing that I found out you can do is hold down Q and it is supposed to make slopes for you. Yeah. So that's the only real thing about slopes. Let me just quickly. Next up, platforms. This is like those are areas that you can stand on, but if you hold down you fall through them. Nothing special really, that's basically it about them. Next up, the poles or beams. You can guess what these do. These place the pores and beams found in the game. I know I'm moving ahead with the the beams and I guess spores, they're more commonly known as spores, but over here they're called beams. These are pretty self-explanatory. They place the beams, you know, that you can climb on and stuff. I don't know what to say about this. It's like beams. Next up, the rock and spear. I don't really use these because they spawn automatically, but if you want to have like a spear spawn specifically here, like you can make that happen, or a rock. The fissure is basically like air, but it can be placed over tiles, and it also just looks neat. It's more like a crack in the building or something. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you would be able to crawl in here. Can be used as a decoration, but yeah. Waterfall, it places a waterfall. Pretty self-explanatory. I won't place any here because I don't have water, so you know. You can place them without having water in the room, but it just looks weird. It doesn't feel right. Next up is a more complicated thing to understand for beginners: shortcuts. One thing to note, placing shortcuts is actually not as easy as you might think. Actually it's pretty easy, but like it can be a little confusing for beginners. This is not the right way to place a shortcut. You need to move them one tile into the wall, like this. This is how most of the entrances or dens or holes require a shortcut, but they can just be placed like normal shortcuts. I don't know what to say. When they are functioning and normal, they turn into an arrow pointing in the direction where it's going. Oof. So yeah, another thing to keep in mind: when you place them on the floor, always put a platform above them so the player doesn't fall into the shortcut. That's pretty important. Next up, let's go over all the little shortcuts that exist. Of course, we have the normal one. Just quickly. Also, the tiles up over here, like these tiles need to be walls. They cannot be air or platforms. They have to be walls. Next up, the second type of shortcut is the player entrance. This is where the player will come in from. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up is the creature den. This is where creatures spawn from. Also pretty self-explanatory. Next up is the whack-a-mole hole. It sounds weird, but it's those little holes that let creatures teleport around the room. Like they can go into this hole and then come out over here if you have another hole there. Then the final-ish one is the scavenger hole. This is where scavengers come out of because they need specific holes. That's it for shortcuts. Pretty simple, but you know, it could be confusing. I have seen people not do shortcuts properly. Also, another thing to keep in mind: shortcuts can only be put onto layer 1, and layer 1 is what the player can interact with. So if I like clear out this area on layer 2, you cannot walk here. That's only the background layer. Layer 2 and 3 are both background layers, but you know, that's kind of important. I don't know why I don't mention them up until this point. This is like unscripted as shit. Next up, batfly hives. These only get used in arenas or swarm rooms. bat flies spawn out of these. Pretty self-explanatory. You know, they can also teleport between them. But yeah. Forbid fly chain. Sometimes in the game, bat flies perform a chain and then hang off of a roof or like a floating wall or tile. You can place this under them to make it so that bat flies cannot hang off that tile. Pretty easy, but you know. Next up is the garbage worm. This is where the issues start happening because I have no idea how these work. I have never gotten them to work. You are supposed to just be able to place them here and they should just spawn one. But that has never happened to me. Maybe you have to restart the save. As in like fully restart the campaign to see them, like how you would see the creature spawns. But yeah, I don't know, they just don't really work for me. But yeah. Almost finally is worm grass, you know, those are the things that pull you under the ground. Basically, you just place them and worm grass will appear there. The more worm grass, the taller it gets, you know. So you don't have to like stack worm grass on top of each other. And the final one is the copy backwards option. It copies things backwards. Yeah, I don't know. But that's it for the geometry tab and all its things. Oh, which I forgot. There is also a mirror option if you want to mirror stuff, but yeah, I don't know. For example, you can like do that, but I don't really use this one. But yeah, that's it for the geometry tab. Let's move on to tiles after I quickly make something in here. Alright, I made this for the geometry. I think it's pretty neat. But now let's move on to the third tab. Oh shit, the tile editor. Okay, I'm not cutting it out. Over here you can add materials, add tiles, just basically decorate the room. Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. There's really not a lot to say about this tab. You can just add materials like large trash, set the default material. I set it to bricks for this one. Just tiling is pretty important, but you can't really just fit that into a tutorial. Like I don't know how to explain it. It is arguably one of the most important parts, but it's also kinda unexplainable, you know? It's pretty... I guess I will just speed up the tiling, maybe that will help, but I don't know how else to explain it. Like, you can add tiles, yeah. It's really about as far as it goes mechanically. Yes, there's auto tiles, which like you can add fences and other stuff that are multiple tiles, like easily, like pipes and stuff. But that's really about it. Like that's all there is to explain. I guess I will just show the tiling parts. Maybe that will have you a better idea of how it works. Also, one more quick thing that I forgot to mention. These are squares. Those represent the materials. This is like, these are the not tile things. You know, tiles are like pre-made stuff. I mean, materials are also pre-made, but it's like filler. Materials are basically the filler parts. Tiles are the more intentional things. I think that's the way to describe it. Like when you place a tile, those are intentionally there, and it feels more intentional. I think that's how you would describe it. I'm not sure. I'm not really that quick to do a tutorial, but like, you know, basically that's the rundown. Also, another thing I forgot to mention. Over here you can also hold down shift to do the area select, or like area fill thing. And when you're placing tiles but don't have the geometry, you can hold down G to place the tile and the geometry. So yeah, that's actually it for the tiling. That's all the tutorial there is, I think. I actually realized I wanted to add a couple more things, but I also came up with a slightly better explanation. That is wrong. I actually came up with a better explanation for tiling. It's basically easy to know how to do it, but hard to know what to do with it. You know, that's the bad part about explaining it. It's kind of hard to explain. But yeah, basically what I would recommend is for you to look at the base game rooms. You can open them up in Raid. So yeah, just look at the base game rooms to see how they do some of the tiling. And yeah, that's basically it. I don't think there's anything I missed in here. So on to the next one now, but for else. The next tab is the camera tab. This is kind of complicated, but basically, first you can add cameras. These get added to by default, so you know you can also move them around. Won't move them right now. One thing that you can do is have camera angles. This is the complicated part that I don't know how to explain. There is a visualizer. There will be, I believe, a visualizer in the description. But basically, it makes the room get rendered differently, if that makes sense. And in a way where it feels less 2D. If that made no sense, then yeah, me neither, bro. I also don't know how this works, but yeah, I think that's the best explanation. I will leave the visualizer that shows how it looks kinda in the description. Yeah, on to the next tab. The next tab is the light tab. This is actually a very simple tab. Over here are the brushes you can select. I don't use most of them. If you hold Q and drag with your mouse, you can just basically resize the brush to whatever you want. With E, you can also rotate by dragging your mouse. Right click is to remove the shadow, left click is to add shadows. The only other thing in here is the light angle and distance, which you can change by grabbing this little dot, and then the games usually have it come from the top left, so yeah. That's also it for the cameras. Oh fuck the light. Yeah, pretty simple. Alright, on to next tab is the effects tab. This is actually pretty simple, to be honest. This is where you add plants and slime and rust and the little erosion things, basically. Also black goo. Don't forget about black goo. It's a little black goo that obscures things. I put up like an example to show you what black goo is, because once you see what it is, you will understand why you want it. It basically obscures the little parts that don't have any tiling or anything, just what you don't want the player to see. But other than that, you can also add slime, which is pretty neat, makes a room look more abandoned. Holy shit, that was a massive summon. Oh. You can also add rust. You can also add rust with decals in DevTools, but that's for the DevTools episode, which you guys voted for to be a completely different video, or like its own video, so you know, you won't see that now. But yeah, I'm going to go add the things now. Oh wait, for the plants, you can also select which effect color it should be. Effect colors will be touched on in DevTools, because that's part of DevTools. Basically, the 1 and 2 are colored, and the X is dead, which means well, it looks like geometry, like it looks dead. I'm so good at explaining things. You can also select which layer the plants and any effects are on except black goo. And you can also require inbounds. You can also turn it on and off. That's basically like if it can spawn from the sky or bottomless pit. I'm so good at explaining things again. Yeah, on to the last tab before that. This last tab is the props tab. Yeah, I don't know, I might get hate for this, but I don't really do anything in the props tab usually. But it is pretty useful for adding wires, chains, the hoses, and other different neat stuff like gears and stuff. You really should look at in-game examples to see how they do stuff for this. But yeah, neat things you can do in the prop editor. Add wires and stuff to make this easier. If you press F, you can actually drag these end parts. So yeah, I'm going to do that. Yes, Now for again these like rope tires or like rope props, you can make them release on one side. Now if you don't do this, it basically looks like this. But if I click right, it will release the right side of the simulation and make it fall. Yeah. Just quickly put that down. Also another neat thing, you can adjust the flexibility of the ropes. Yeah, this is mostly about ropes. You can also add any tiles as a prop and then scale them or move them off the grid. But that's basically the only things props are used for. Yeah, that's kinda it. Yes, and let's render the room. Alright, this last part is just me thanking you guys for 300 subscribers. I realized that the rendering is actually not that important, like at all, and it would just be you staring at the room rendering, which doesn't really affect anything. But yeah, thank you guys for 300 subscribers. I really didn't expect that speed editing video to pop off so hard. Shout out to the 300 subscriber. I probably have that comment up. If you're confused on what he was referring to, I am kinda on the fence about me doing a editing stream. I'm still not entirely sure, because like I reviewed this footage. It was so boring as shit. Like the non-sped up tiling was probably the most boring thing I've ever seen, so I don't know if anyone would watch that. But yeah, also I have an upload coming out in like an hour, I guess. I'll still have a timer because it's already done, edited, and the thumbnail is made. I just have to like upload it to YouTube. But yeah. Also new background footage, yay. Basically expect more speed editing videos, maybe not as frequently because I have to get back to work on my actual mod. The last few have been just for fun because I wanted to recreate that style. I don't know, this is going on for way too long, but yeah, just